Hello, welcome to the Elland Road Roundup. It's my weekly look back at all the events surrounding Leeds United. And this week began with one of the most welcome sights I've seen since I first saw a pair of boobs, as the club put out footage of Patrick Bamford and Luke Ayling returning to training. Finally! Honestly, we've missed those two more than your ma misses my dick. Tell her I'll be over later. Without Patrick Bamford, we've had all the cutting edge of special school scissors and, without having any fullbacks fit in a system that prioritises attacking through the fullback areas, we've been a little limp. The sooner these two beautiful princes and shithouse kings are back in the team, the better for me. And after they had a little run out with the 23s later in the week, it looks like it can't be long now. Shortly after, we were treated to another sighting of digital monopoly money peddlers Socios, as they gave us humble fans another chance to boost their engagement metrics. Ooh. This week, the shady crypto wanks, who were frankly about as welcome in Leeds as Ken Bates with a tickly cough, asked us to decide what the pre-match music would be at Elland Road. Strings for Yasmin, then marching on together, now fuck off. They later clarified that it wasn't the music in the stadium that we all heard, it was going to be the music in the tunnel that the players listened to before the match, and frankly, who gives a fuck? Why are you asking us? Let them choose. It's them who's listening to it. Like, what's going to happen behind the scenes at Elland Road? They're going to be like, look, I'm sorry, RAPHINHA. I know that samba music really gets you in the mood for the match, but Dave from Beeston wants you to listen to Live Forever, so sit down and get those headphones on, lad. As ever, the whole thing was a fucking farce. Socios and its associated cryptocurrency chilies are a fucking scam, and frankly, I'd be delighted if everyone involved could fuck off into the centre of the sun. Thanks. There were also reports this week that German referee bribers Bayern Munich were struggling to offload Leeds' nearly man Michael Cuisance. Now, you might remember Mickey Currysauce as the guy who failed a medical at Leeds United, much to the consternation of our fans and Bayern Munich's board. But a year or so on from that, he's been permanently injured, apparently has a terrible attitude in training, and has never got close to trouble in the Bayern Munich first team. They're now just sort of planning on cutting their losses and trying to get rid of a huge deadweight, just like your missus is planning to. Buy her some flowers, right? Don't take her for granted, come on. And I think it's about time that we all allowed ourselves a huge sigh of relief. Nearly in our absolute desperation to sign a midfielder, we ended up with another fucking John Kevin Augustine situation, which would have been terrible and also would have blocked us from watching Adam Forshaw's glorious rebirth. Praise the Lord! We'll have much more about Adam Forshaw later on. This week also saw the 10-year anniversary of the tragic passing of Leeds United legend Gary Speed. Now, as this is nominally a comedy show, and this is one of the least funny things to ever happen, I'm not going to spend too long dwelling on it, but it's important to remember him for the great man he was, and also to learn what lessons we can from the awful circumstances of his passing. You, who is watching right now, yes, you, if you're struggling, and it's totally okay if you are, a lot of people do a lot of the time, please stay with us, right? Don't give up. Keep fighting. If you feel like you need to get help, please do. Reach out to someone. Speak. Because I've been there, and it can and it will get better. It will. No matter how much you think it can't, it will. So, keep going. Keep fighting. And R.I.P. Gary, we won't forget you. Now I'm going to have to attempt a very awkward change of tone, like when This Morning goes from a story about a violent paedophile to Gino D'Acampo making a lovely pastry. So, here's some nice, pleasant images in order to cheer you up a little bit before we get back to the jokes. At least we had a game to look forward to, and on Saturday afternoon we took the long trip down to Brighton for a match that was sure to cheer us all up. I've got another match I've got to cover in this video. You know, normally there's only one to do in a week, so I am pressed for time, so we'll blast through this pretty quickly. And suffice to say that Leeds were absolutely excellent, and were very unlucky not to come away with all 3 points. So that's that. Let's move on. I am, of course, bullshitting. We were shit. The game was shit. Brighton is shit. If you want to hear more Brighton bashing, check out my stand-up comedy special Too Big to Fail on my comedy channel. I recorded it after living in Brighton for a year, and it's fair to say I didn't enjoy it. So let's just get through this and get on to better stuff later. Before the game, the Amex, which by the way is possibly the most corporate soulless stadium in the fucking world. It's just this concrete blob miles outside of Brighton. It's like if we had Huddersfield Stadium ass hours and claimed it was still Leeds. It's fucking bollocks. Put on a fireworks display like it was hosting fucking WrestleMania. But unfortunately, as soon as the first whistle went, that was where the fireworks ended. To be clear, Marcelo Bielsa is the greatest human being on the entire planet. But he is human, and occasionally he gets so obsessed in times of crisis with fixing the problem within the team that I think he can overanalyze it to a point where he comes up with a plan so complicated that it just can't possibly work. And that's how we ended up with a back three with Kalvin Philips as a right centre-back and Dan James playing as a lone striker. I cannot claim to have even 1% of the understanding of football that Marcelo Bielsa does, but I am aware that going to a windy stadium and banging long balls to Dan James is not the most productive of strategies. We just couldn't get going. Like, Brighton pressed very well, and ultimately we looked about as disjointed as Snoop Dogg in a rehab facility. Ultimately though, there were only two people to blame for this game ending 0-0. One of them, Neil Maupay, who spent the entire game shooting like a Star Wars stormtrooper, and Ilan Meslier, who once again made a couple of incredible saves to bail Leeds out like Yves Bissouma after a big night out. Just look again at this save. It is hit so hard right into the corner. He sees it so late, but still somehow he manages to get to it. When I first saw it, I genuinely could not work out how he had made this save until I saw another picture of Elland from a different angle that explained how he managed to get one of his arms to it. We came back into it for the last 10 minutes, but we didn't really deserve anything from the game. And at the final whistle, I think we were all delighted to have snatched an absolutely outrageous point. But the Brighton fans saw it very differently and decided to boo their team off their pitch, much to the consternation of their manager and part-time insurance salesman Graham Potter. And I think Potter's got a fucking point. At the time of this game, Brighton were 8th in the Premier League. They were the 8th best team in the entire country. Brighton and Hove Albion, 8th best in the fucking country, and they're booing. About 3 years ago, you were playing on a fucking school playing field. Show some fucking respect. Please, Leeds fans, let's never become as ungrateful, miserable, whiny bastards as those southern pricks. If you're enjoying this video, head over to patreon.com/Rob Mulholland and sign up there for as little as £1 a month. You can get all of these videos totally ad-free, and also I give little extra exclusives that you can't get anywhere else. Ooh. Make sure you liked and subscribed, and head over to my comedy channel, which is just Rob Mulholland Comedy, where I put funny videos every week, including stand-up clips, Rob reviews everything, and stand-up comedy specials. Ooh, all for free. Follow me on social media, it's at Rob Mulholland just about everywhere, and sign up to my mailing list at robcomedy.co.uk if you want to be kept in the loop when I'm coming on tour. Right, back to the video. Over the weekend, we avoided dropping into the relegation zone thanks to Burnley's game against Spurs being postponed because Sean Dyche is too hard to put on a coat or recovering on the playing field. But you know, thanks Sean, saved me fucking weekend, you gravelly cunt. Thankfully we didn't have too long to dwell on this shit show as Tuesday rolled round. And with it, a visit from Patrick Vieira, who brought with him to Elland Road both his Crystal Palace team and his perfectly spherical head. Angus Kinnear warmed up for the match by using his programme notes to compare the idea of Premier League clubs kicking into a fund to help the lower leagues with Maoism. Now for the uninitiated, Chairman Mao oversaw what is the largest mass murder of people in recorded history that resulted in the deaths of 45 million people, which, you know, seems like a perfectly fair and reasonable analogy for a bunch of billionaire-owned mega clubs that are now global brands, stumping up a sum of money that their owners wouldn't even bend down to pick up in the street in order to help a bunch of historic football clubs stop going bust. Yeah, seems exactly equivalent. About right, Angus. The game itself took place at the frankly baffling time of 8:15 PM, and in conditions that could be described as less than ideal. Beeston was in the grips of a type of weather that is totally unique to Yorkshire called swirly rain. You know, when there's little mini vortexes of rain all over the place and you look up at the floodlights and all you can see is sort of circular droplets flicking round like that. Yeah, well, the wind last night had whipped up the rain to a swirl factor of 8, which made long balls a complete exercise in futile randomness. It was another tight and tense match, but the tone of it was totally different as our old intensity was back. Adam Forshaw, one of the few players who emerged from the Brighton game with any credit at all, bossing our midfield like a baby in a DreamWorks film. I am never, ever going to shut up about the miracle that is Adam Forshaw's form this season. We thought he was dead. I genuinely believed the man would never play again and maybe not even walk. But here he is, not just walking, but running and being our best player. It's genuinely fucking mind-blowing and a testament to his incredible hard work. God, I love that beautiful Scouse bastard. If he's ever injured again, I will gladly donate him my legs. Although, you know, I am 6'7" and lanky as fuck, so he is going to be wandering around our midfield like he's on fucking stilts. The battle between Wilfried Zaha and Stuart Dallas had the intensity of the Somme and weather conditions to match, to be honest, with our man Stuart coming out on top in the end due to being more committed than Randall McMurphy. There was one moment that truly typified Stuart Dallas's commitment to the cause. As he was chasing Zaha back down the wing, he stumbled and lost his footing for a second and realised that he wasn't going to be able to keep pace, and his only chance to get the ball away was to dive at it face first and scoop it away with his mush. Leeds United are going to be fucking fine this season as long as we have players like Stuart, who is willing to risk getting booted in the head so hard he forgets the name of his kids just so we can stop a cross coming in. We'll be golden. Ilan Meslier was back to doing more scarcely believable things late in the game, as Christian Benteke, who you might remember from about 2012, managed to squirm a shot underneath him, only for Meslier to scramble back to his goal line and claw it away, much to the surprise of absolutely everyone in the stadium, including Christian Benteke, who'd already set off on a celebration run. The lad is not human. The only explanation for Ilan Meslier is that he was a robot that was bitten by a radioactive Gordon Banks. That's all it is. That's all it could be. I won't hear different. A couple of other standout performers were the incessantly annoying Dan James. Seriously, he buzzes round opposition players like a wasp at a fucking picnic. He's getting better and better every game, and I'm really starting to get why Bielsa wanted him so badly. He is completely 100% custom made for Bielsa ball. Also, perennial internet flak magnet Tyler Roberts was for once played in his favoured position. And the lad, who is only 22 years old still, let us remember, put in a fantastic shift. He led the press brilliantly with complete commitment, masses of energy, and played with intelligence, linking up the play really cleverly. And that was a couple of days after he'd come off the bench against Brighton to be our best player. There are a huge amount of our fans who have already made their minds up about Tyler Roberts, and a couple of good games aren't going to change that. They have an opinion, and they're fucking sticking to it. But if he carries on going like this, you're probably going to have to at some point. Hasn't Bielsa shown you that players can develop and get better, especially ones as young as Tyler? Now, I'll admit to something. I've been plenty guilty of this in the past. About 3.5 years ago, before Bielsa arrived, I thought Stuart Dallas wasn't a very good footballer, but he spent the last 3 years making a fucking mockery of that, and now I think he's probably the most underrated player in the Premier League. I'm not saying Tyler's performing to the same level or as consistency as Stuart Dallas. He's got a long, long way before he gets to that, but give the lad a chance. He's getting there. Bielsa rates him for a fucking reason, and I just don't see what you stand to gain by being the person who was most miserable about a player for the longest. Just fucking support the lad. Jesus. In the end, despite us actually being the better side in this game, neither side could break the deadlock until Mark Guehi decided to slap the ball out of the penalty area and gift us a penalty. Now up stepped RAPHINHA. And it's fair to say there have been very few occasions where I have been that tense inside a football stadium. It was fucking horrible waiting for that to be taken. It wasn't helped any by his sort of stuttering, jinking run-up. The moment where he leapt in the air to do one of those dummy kicks, my heart fucking dropped, let alone the rest of the Leeds players. It was fucking horrid. It was this amazing moment just before he struck the ball where the whole stadium went totally silent, just for half a beat, and then we saw the ball hit the back of the net and the fucking roof came off. I was completely gone. I was like upside down 3 rows in front of where I started, just hugging strangers. Shoes were flying everywhere. And like the feeling of relief was so huge. That was such an important one. That was so important we got those 3 points. It makes everything feel a lot fucking better. And in the resulting celebration, Stuart Dallas came over to RAPHINHA to congratulate him on the size of his big swinging plums. And then RAPHINHA demonstrated to the world that he has absolutely no knowledge of how to do the Macarena. That win has lifted us away from the relegation zone for a bit, made everything look a little bit more comfortable, and it meant I could go back on Twitter without it being such such a fucking horrible place where we all wanted to kill ourselves. We're definitely going to be fine now. Everyone's coming back. Brentford, I'm calling it now. We're going to beat them. Please beat them. Please just fucking beat them. And I'll see you at Elland Road on Sunday if you're there. I'll be back with another one of these on Tuesday. Thank you very much for watching, especially to my Patreons. You are the realest. Catch you again later. Matching on together.